Do you find yourself holding on to things because of memories associated with them? Things we own remind us of special moments or people, but eventually stuff piles up, leaving us with a cluttered environment that can cause stress as well as frustration. In this episode, we'll teach you how to declutter your way to a happier, healthier life. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and we bring you the knowledge and care you need, especially in this time of COVID-19. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk only on CNN Philippines. Clutter can make it difficult to get things done and find what you need. Imagine looking for your car keys when you're already late for work. This makes us very frantic, anxious, and stressed, possibly setting a negative tone for the rest of the day. Now, our guest today will talk about this topic, plus much, much more. Let's welcome to the show Alodia Mercado, who is a clinical psychologist from AMAX Psychological Services and research expert for the Department of Health. Also with us is Isa Reyes. She's a professional organizer and managing director of Neat Obsessions. Now, your home, everyone's home, should be your sanctuary. It should be a place for you to unwind as well as relax. But when it's full of clutter, full of stuff, it may become the opposite. Cluttered environments can affect your overall well-being. I'd like to start off the conversation with Ms. Day. Aside from less stress, less anxiety, ano yung mga benefits of a home that has less clutter?
Whenever there is clutter, it somehow makes you feel stagnant kasi. But when you let go of the things that you do not need anymore and start piling up and organizing things that you need, it makes you feel better because once you see things in order, it optimizes your environment. Thus, your mood and your mind. Mas nagiging kalmado yung ating pakiramdam and the state of mind whenever we have a good environment.
Having a cleaner space boosts the mind, enhances focus, mas maganda yung productivity. So mas maganda siguro, mas creative ang tao kapag decluttered. But Miss Day, ano kayang problema? Bakit mas madalas hindi nagiging organized ang tao kung all of these benefits are there?
Well, actually, it's a natural thing to happen for human beings to have clutter in their environment. Kasi psychologically speaking, we are very sentimental in nature. Most especially as Filipinos, we wanted to collect things. We wanted to make sensible of the things we encountered in the past. Ganon nakastructure yung brain natin kasi bigger part of our brain is responsible for our emotions na nakabind sa mga objects that we have in our environment. Kaya it's really natural for everyone to have their own clutter in their environment.
In this time of COVID-19, we want to make sure that we're at our healthiest. All of us want to be healthy, of course. Not only should we exercise, fuel our bodies, we should also make sure that our space, that space that we are in, is neat and tidy. Now, Ms. Day, pag-usapan naman natin, aside from the psychological health, physical health, meron bang physical health advantage ang isang lugar na less clutter?
Actually, a lot of researchers had already proven that. Isa sa mga benepisyo ng pagde-declutter physically or in terms of health is for us to rid off some allergens, yung mga things that shouldn't be in our environment. So kapag mas mababa yung allergens natin, mas mababa yung stress level natin. And whenever we declutter, nakakatulong din yan sa pagpapababa ng stress level or cortisol level natin sa katawan. A lot of researchers showed that people tend to experience increase in stress hormones whenever they deal with their disorganized belongings. And when you often experience stress in a daily basis, it becomes chronic and it becomes different in terms of the structure of the brain. Kumbaga, nag-iiba ang structure of the brain whenever you are exposed to chronic stress. Kaya it makes you more stressed. So parang ang logic is these clutters can make you stressed. It can change the structure of the brain, and once it changed already, it makes you more stressed on a daily basis.
When you have too many things lying around, someone might feel like that they're not in control in their life. May loss of control for that matter. Ms. Isa, pag-usapan naman natin yon. Can having clutter constantly, could this lead to a lack of self-esteem ng isang tao?
I always say that if there's one thing in your life that you can fully control, those are the things that you own. Because one, they don't have any reaction, they cannot complain because those are just things. But most often than not, like if clutter pile up, 'di ba? Parang what happens is our things controls us. Parang ganun yung nangyayari. Like we don't want to go inside a particular room because I'm just going to be stressed out. Most often than not, it's our storage room that we don't want to go in. 'Di ba? Na parang I don't want to go in that. I will just feel mag-hyperventilate lang ako sa loob niyan, right? And because instead of us being in control over that particular room or yung kalat natin, sila yung nagko-control sa atin pabalik.
On that note, being an expert in organization, ano yung mga telltale signs? Ano yung mga red flags ng isang tao that may point to na they need to declutter?
What happens is that parang yung mga tao sa paligid niya, yun kadalasan yung tumatawag sa akin, can you help my mom? Or can you help, parang my husband because nag-hoard siya. And as a professional, I understand that being a hoarder or if you are a collector, it's an accumulation of, parang it's kind of a habit na nagbi-build up. So it's kind of hard na parang dadating ako doon and then it's just going to be like one event we have to let go of your stuff. So that's why I need to come up with logical reasons why they need to declutter slowly. And one of that logical reasons was mentioned earlier, which is to protect your health and hygiene.
Now, when we return, we'll talk about how a cluttered household can be a sign of a hoarding disorder. We're your connection to healthcare. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk. Do you have trouble throwing things away? Are you becoming a hoarder? This is MedTalk Health Talk. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and we're together in health. Physical clutter can become an obsession. We may sometimes find ourselves surrounded with stuff we can't get rid of because they have some form of sentimental value or possibly can become potentially useful in the future. Not everyone who has clutter at home has a hoarding disorder. I want everyone to understand that. But let's try and find out some of the red flags for this. Miss Day, pag-usapan natin yon. A lot of people may be able to relate to this. Tinatago yung kahon ng binili nilang appliance, probably feeling nila magagamit nila yung kahon later on or, things like that. But when is it now a problem of hoarding?
The first is that we're going to consider is the impairment or dysfunction. Is the person already incapacitated to perform his or her duties at home because of excessive clutters in the environment? Since all of the things that a hoarder is really treasured, no, they often feel awful to let go of things regardless of its value. Kahit minsan wala nang silbi yung object, they still find satisfaction in keeping it. And I have heard a lot of members of the family of a person who is hoarding usually reads of things of a hoarder in their own absence at home. And it creates attention dun sa hoarder because all of a sudden, pag uwi nila, wala na yung mga gamit nila. And masasabi natin that it would create even more serious concerns on their mental health kasi I have seen a lot of people who commit suicide or ended their lives because of simply reading off their objects or important things at home.
Now, my question for Isa is, why do you think people hoard?
One is probably they're filling up a void, and it's also a process because it's difficult that we're going to do it at one go without them realizing and accepting in themselves that they need to let go, they need to declutter.
Some people with a hoarding disorder may also experience possibly other mental health disorders. Is this possible, Ms. Day? Could you give some examples if so?
Is highly related to other disorders such as depression, anxiety, and ADHD, and even trauma. Based on my experience, when we're talking about the common cold, which is depression, most of them do not like to work or
Mhm.
to stand up from their own bed. And their energy is very much limited to just survival activities such as eating and sleeping. Doon na lang umiikot yung buhay nila. And most of the time, they find it very challenging to declutter. That's why when you see a person experiencing depression, anxiety, and ADHD, you can see their environment really messy.
Hoarding, as studies have suggested, can be seen in those as early as 11 to 15 years old, and it can get worse with age. Now, hoarding is also common in older adults as well. Miss Isa, ano yung mga risk factors that one may develop itong hoarding na ito?
I think what happens is dun sa mga nagho-hoard ng gamit, no, parang it's kind of parang they're having a hard time getting off that habit of buying and collecting. And collector kasi make sure that they take care of their things. Kumbaga parang when they buy something, they know where to put it, they know where to probably hang it or keep it, store it. That's a collector. While a hoarder, on the other hand, parang when they buy or when they get things, they don't think of saan ko ba to ilalagay. It's really just the action of, acquiring and getting that item without realizing that it will again affect them, physically, mentally, emotionally.
What are the sort of steps in order to address the hoarding disorder, possible treatment, management scenarios for this?
Yes, whenever, kagaya ng sinabi ni Miss Isa, no, it's very difficult to make a person who is suffering from hoarding disorder to really understand the underlying reason of doing so. But we can start with simple psychoeducation or making the person aware of the nature of what he or she is experiencing. The family dynamics is really very important in managing and treating this kind of issue because ang sabi nga, ang sakit ng kalingkingan ay sakit ng buong katawan. Kaya it's very important that there is dynamism, there is a process that has to be done within the family because by the end of the day, this is not an issue of the person who is hoarding only, but I guess all members of the family that they have to fill in a certain emotional support to that person who is suffering.
Is it common for just one person, the person who is hoarding, to be the focus of attention here? Or is it possible na merong mga enablers ito sa buhay niya?
I would say that there's a certain hormone that is being produced when you are hoarding that is very much similar to addiction. And it's so much difficult to deal with urges and cravings whenever we talk about hoarding behavior and how they are getting motivation from doing so. Kaya napaka-importante that each of members of the family would understand the triggers of this person moving towards their collecting or hoarding behaviors, which are not on the normal orders. So mahalaga na maintindihan ng tao kung ano ba yung mga sitwasyon, objects, people na mas nakakapag-push sa kanila na mag-hoard. So it's more on like understanding themselves better so that they can do better decisions in the future.
When we return, we'll help you ditch the things that are making your house unorganized. Your health is our mission. This is Med Talk Health Talk, and we'll be right back. Decluttering doesn't have to be stressful. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching Med Talk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where your care comes first. Now, sometimes we may spend hours, days, or even weeks making to-do lists and buying organizational items to help manage our clutter. But what if that doesn't help? Identifying the cause of clutter is definitely a great first step. Ms. Isa, I'll start with you. What are some of the common things that can help someone start their decluttering journey?
Okay, number one that you need to do is set an intention first. What is the intention in this particular space? What do I want to feel in this particular space? Like, for example, when you're in your bedroom, what do you want to feel here? Do you want to feel at peace? Is it going to be your sanctuary, your resting place, right? You have to make sure that you know the intention in that space, because with that intention, that's where you will start. Now, on the technical part, then as mentioned earlier, you only have to remember three things. You can actually be organized without throwing first, because I understand that decluttering is already an overwhelming task. You
Mhm.
know, so if an overwhelming feeling plus an overwhelming task, it's not actually a good mix. But one way for you to assist yourself is that you do sorting first, build a category, sort it, put like items together, and once that you have that visual inventory, now that's where you move on to decluttering, which will make it a little bit easier.
What's your advice for the viewers on how to let go? Because I think that's an important thing, how to be able to let go. Because for especially for a hoarder, that is one of the things that is very difficult for them to do. So, what kind of tips, what kind of advice can you give?
So it's more on awareness and being mindful of the things that have to be prioritized as of the moment. Like for example, itatabi mo ba yung mga gamit na ginagamit mo pa nung high school? Kasi no matter how important these things to you are, no, hindi naman na siya nagagamit on the present time. You have to let go of it. Same as our psychological baggages, no, we have to be aware of the benefits of decluttering emotionally and psychologically. And it's also part of the process. I do understand it is not a one-time processing that the next day you wake up, you can already let go of the things that you have been collecting or been saving for the longest time. No, always remember that what comes in must come out.
Are there tried and true ways in order for our viewers to start their decluttering journey? There's one method called the KonMari method. Could you say something about this?
Yeah, I'm actually a KonMari consultant in training. I discussed my personal method, which I call the homeward technique. That is the process of you going home to your home. And it's the three-step process. It's sorting, detaching, and rehoming. And I would always say in sorting, you know what you have, because that's when you put like items together. In detaching, you understand what you need. And that is the process of, looking at things objectively. And in rehoming, you accept what is left. So you just have to remember three important steps. And I think it's very more applicable for Pinoys, especially we're highly sentimental. There's always a story to tell. Like, bigay ng lolo ko, bigay ng kapitbahay ko, nakuha ko nung unang sweldo ko. So that's why I created that technique. And you can watch my videos. I explain there how to do it, but it's easy to remember. It's easy to follow. And you don't have to be hard on yourself at the get-go where you have to let go right away, but actually, understanding the commitment in taking care of your things.
This discussion was definitely very, very helpful. Thank you very much, clinical psychologist Ms. Alodia Mercado and professional organizer Ms. Lisa Reyes, for sharing your expertise, sharing your advice. I'm sure a lot of our viewers were enlightened by this episode. As we start to control the clutter, we take better care of ourselves. Instead of spending time rummaging through your things, you can spend that time more productive elsewhere with your loved ones. If it's something that you can't control, don't be afraid to ask and seek professional help. Stay safe, everyone. We want to be your partner for a lifetime of good health. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this has been Mental Health Talk on CNN Philippines.